limited snaps. Wonder if you can update us on that.
Yeah, still looking through these guys. They're progressing nicely. Nothing that we think's real serious, but we'll see, and we'll have more for you on Wednesday.
We'll go to Chris and then John.
Hey, Nick. The Giants seem to be the epitome of live by the blitz, die by the blitz. What's been your assessment so far when you've seen the Giants bring pressure, and how do you think that the Eagles' offense, including Jalen, have responded by seeing all these blitzes?
Obviously still early in my studies of them. You go through a Monday morning, you really do a lot of evaluation on yourself and what you did, and obviously we're just real early on it. But I know that this style of defense it can create a lot of issues, and you got to be on it as far as your rules and do everything with your rules and make sure you have plays that can block these things. So. Again, like I said, really early in our preparation right here, but they make you think, and they're well coached, and they got good players, so we're gonna have to be on it. And the scheme that they have is really challenging. So there'll be a lot of time that we'll spend here in the office like every week to make sure that we have a plan for these guys and put our players in position to make plays.
Go ahead, John, and then Josh.
Hi, Nick. You mentioned this early in the week. It's mainly about what you guys did. So I'm curious, now that you've watched the film, the tweaks on special teams that you guys did, how do you think that worked out, and why do you think it worked out so well?
Yeah, I think the guys came and they were ready to go. I think like our coaches put them in a good spot to do some different things with what we did, and a little bit of that too was what Tennessee was doing. So again, not going to give you the answers probably on the scheme, because we got to play again this week against a really good opponent. But with what our adjustments were, again, and how our players played, like I think it was a big, guys just stepped up and made plays, and Coach Clay and the special teams coaches did a good job of getting them to be in position to make plays. So. But there was a number of guys that made plays. It wasn't just one guy, right? It was a full team, just like it was full team defense yesterday on display. It was full team special teams defense and return game going on out there. A bunch of guys made that thing go, and that's what football is. It's a great team sport, and it takes all 11 to make it go.
We'll go to Josh and then Zach.
Hey, Nick, what type of impact has James Bradberry had for this defense through the first 12 games?
Yeah, he's been on fire. I really think that he just sees the field well. He makes the play when the play comes to him. All right, and I just think that he's just been a great veteran help to the defense. Been really good compliment on the other side of Slay. He's steady. He's a pro. He doesn't say much, but he goes out there and does his job every day, and he leads by example. Really, I've really enjoyed getting to know James and just the type, and you see why he's been the type of pro that he's been when you see his work habits every single day of how he goes about preparing for an opponent, how he goes about preparing for a wide receiver. He's a really good corner, and not only because he has great talent, but also because he has great preparation, great football IQ, great toughness, and I'm sure glad he's an Eagle.
Go ahead, Zach, and then Rube. Rube, if you're ready, go ahead.
Yeah, Nick. One interesting thing, since Goddard got hurt, you've kind of found some new weapons on offense. Quez has gotten more involved. We've seen Grant and Jack Stoll catch the ball. You threw more to the backs yesterday. Do you feel like you've discovered something in the offense that when Dallas comes back, you kind of have some more options that you feel comfortable with?
Yeah, it will still always be an issue of how many you only got one ball to spread around, right? So obviously when Dallas comes back, you're going to want to get him involved just like you want to get him involved before he got hurt. But it is nice that the guys are stepping up in his absence and making plays. which is only going to make you more difficult to defend. And so, when you gain that confidence in guys, you say to yourself, well, maybe I can have one more play for him or one more play for that. So it definitely forces you as a coach to think about how you're going to get all these guys the ball. And so the offense ran through those three guys. I think when Dallas gets back, when that happens, we'll be obviously excited to get him. But there's still going to be, an offense will still go through those three guys. But then you're going to just have some things in your mind like, well, he made a play here and he made a play there and he made a play there. And we got to give Quez the ball because Quez is really dangerous with the ball. So it'll definitely, just make us harder to defend and people will have to plan for everybody on that side of the ball to stop.
We'll go to Zach and then Dave.
Hey, Nick, sorry about that. I had background noise. I know you're still wrapping up yesterday's game, but I've seen you talk about Brian Daboll and the influence he's had on your career. How would you explain that, and in particular, that year in Kansas City together?
Yeah, it wasn't by any means a year that either of us probably want to remember. It was my first year as a position coach. Brian was our coordinator. We didn't have a great year as far as statistically, record-wise, all those things. I think we were pretty good at rushing the ball, if I remember rightly. But the things I learned about, particularly about defensive football, right? He obviously Brian was a offensive coach, our offensive coordinator, but he taught me so many things about the defensive side of the ball that I know was really significant to him and his development. And I think what Coach Daboll did was really, I always felt like he kind of just took me under his wing and said, I'm going to really help this guy. And it was myself, and I really felt that about myself and Jim Bob, who were there together. I felt like he really took us under his wing and wanted to teach us as much as he possibly could. Because I think he always would say he saw something in us, and he really wanted to contribute to our success as coaches. And he did that. He's just such a smart coach. Like I said, the things that we really bonded a lot over wide receiver play, a lot, in the pass game and also, quarterback play, but particularly the conversations we had about wide receivers. I remember we went out to work a guy out at Appalachian State, from Appalachian State, and myself and Coach Daboll went out there, and we just had so many good conversations about the position, about offense, and so it was just, and then him and I being from the same area of the country in Western New York, just always had a connection with him, and so he, again, like I said, the things that he was able to do to help my career, I felt like he took me, right, like any good coach does. You're here and you want them to be able to take you to the next level and then some. That's what we try to do with players. How can we get these guys to raise their game to another level? Well, Brian Daboll did that for me as a coach. I felt like I was here, and then he took me to a couple levels higher because of the things he taught me about offense, about defensive football, and just I just got so much respect for him and really appreciate everything he's done for my career, because he made me a way better coach just being around him for a year. I always felt like, and we've always stayed in touch, since that year, but I always felt like, I wish I had more years around him because of how much knowledge I learned in just that 1 year from him. So I can't say enough good things about him. I see why the team, again, I'm just early in my studies, but I can see why his team is playing so well, and because they're sound, because they got a really good head football coach over there in New York.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Dave, and then Martin.
Hey, Nick, in which areas do you think Devonta Smith has grown the most in year two?
Yeah, Devonta's so naturally skilled at the position and so fundamentally sound and so savvy with just how to run routes. Like, he's just gaining more knowledge on that. And I wouldn't say when he came in here he had a weakness, right? Because he just did so many things so well. He's just getting better at doing the things, that he does so well, and he just keeps getting better at it. I do feel like he's just got this tremendous feel in zone coverages to where to sit in the holes and where to see the holes, where, where I think he's taken a step is that he has this outside, he's a phenomenal outside receiver who has this feel to be able to go inside and just have a field for inside because there's a lot more. It's a lot different inside, right? Outside, you got to do a couple things. You got to beat the guy. You got to beat the leverages. You got to identify different coverages. But inside, you got to feel everything. There's more guys in there to feel around, and so. But he has a good feel for that because he's just got such good football IQ, and so Devonta, I just see him continue to grow there. I really feel like. The guy I had like this was Keenan Allen, where he was able to go inside, outside, and really change the game, both from the slot and from the outside. And I just feel like Devontae's made that, that's no secret because, he's in there a bunch, but that's where he's made a big jump he's probably always had the ability to do it. We just started putting him in there a little bit more. So he's had a nice year so far, and we look to continue to build up on that.
Go ahead, Martin, and then Bo.
Hi, Nick. I apologize if Tim didn't ask when he asked about the injuries about Kaiser White. Is he one of the guys you talked about or no?
I didn't really talk about anybody. Just the guys that we had some. Like any game, you're going to have some bumps and bruises that go on. Nothing that we felt. So Kaiser would fall. I kind of generalized it, right? Nothing that we felt like was going to be serious or anything that we were concerned about. And so, like I said, it's early. It's early for these guys. They're in the training room. We're still getting, feedback from the trainers and the doctors. Again, like I said, nothing that real concerned about. And hopefully we'll have everybody for this week. But it's too soon to tell that completely. And, we'll have more information for you on Wednesday.
And if I could follow up, obviously Nakobe Dean played quite a bit in Kaiser's place. I was just curious as to your thoughts on how he played. He had like 5 tackles and maybe 20 snaps and everything.
Yeah, we thought he played well, and I think that started in his, his special teams reps. He had that hit at the beginning of the second half that really established the physicality that we wanted to play with, and that we were coming out in the second half again to play physical, and Nakobe really started that thing off. And then when he was in there, he did a nice job, and that's what we would anticipate of our first guy in. If one of those guys were to get hurt, and miss some time like Kaiser had to in the second half, we have a lot of faith in Nakobe to come in and make a play. So we're really happy with our depth there. We're really happy with the development of Nakobe. We're really happy with the way TJ and Kaiser are playing. They're playing at a high level. And so, Nakobe just got to keep trying to make his way through special teams and when he gets the opportunity to play. And we also see that in practice. So we're really happy with Nakobe and how he's performed when he's gotten opportunities and what he does in practice as well.
All right, thanks.
We'll take these last 2 questions from Bo and then EJ.
Hey, Nick, we've asked you in the past about Jalen not throwing to his left quite as much or not throwing over the middle quite as much as compared to most other quarterbacks. That hasn't been the case this season, it seems like. Is that something that you guys tangibly worked on with him, or is that just the result of more weapons in the offense and the way that things have shaken out?
I think some things, like when you say to the left, that's something that I think just happens based off of which way the progression starts. That I don't put much stock into. I think as far as over the middle, yeah, I mean, that can happen off of coverages. That happens off of different things, different routes that you're doing. And so I don't look too much into that, except for the fact that you want to be multiple to defend in every area. So if you have a tendency to throw right all the time, we concentrate on that. And if you have a tendency to throw outside all the time, you try to concentrate on that to make yourself more multiple. But, the way the teams play your run game, that dictates where the ball goes. I mean, it's just such you come in with a plan, but it's so dictated where the ball goes in a game is so dictated on. It really is on what the defense is playing, and that's what good quarterback play is, right? Is where the defense is playing this, they take the ball where it needs to go based off the coverage or based off of what happened in the rush. So to me, it's been more of what Jalen's done well is that he's just continuing to progress as a quarterback of knowing where to go with the football versus every different look. And that's not surprising. Like when you guys asked me a question about Jalen, before, he's got all these touchdowns this year, all these yards rushing and passing. And no matter what, the first answer I'm going to give you on Jalen every time is that, he's doing these things because he's so locked in. I'm telling you, like, he's the one in here till all hours of the night. He's the one in here popping his head in the Tuesday night offensive coaches meeting and seeing if Brian Johnson's still in there so he can continue to go over the game plan when it's 9:00 at night, and that will take those guys into it. He's the one in there. He grinds, and he wants to be great. And so I think it's a product of him just continuing to get better, and he's just going to keep getting better because of who he is and the time he puts into it, and how much it means to him, and what great football character he has.
All right, last one here with EJ.
Hey, Nick. Miles Sanders is closing in on 1,000 yards for the season. I guess from last year to this year, what progress have you seen him make? And, from an outside perspective, it seemed like he came into training camp in a lot better shape. Is that how you saw it too?
I think it was because all you guys were saying that he was the number 2 back. He got pissed off at you guys. And so it was you guys. No, I'm kidding. He's been really good this year as far as taking care of the football. He's been really good this year of picking up pressures. He's been really good this year of seeing the pressures and identifying it and everything. And so those are things that some of those things aren't even about the yards. They're about, him in the development of his game. He just keeps getting better and getting better and better. We all know how explosive he is and how good of a football player he is. But he's just really taking advantage of all his opportunities. Like yesterday, there wasn't a lot of opportunities, but he took advantage of the ones he got. The week before, there was a lot of opportunities for him, and he took advantage of the ones he got. And Miles has stayed healthy this year. I know he got dinged up a little bit last year, and or else we've been talking about how this was, if he didn't get dinged up last year, but which is part of the game, we would have been talking about how this is the second year in a row that he's had 1,000 yards. And so, he's done a nice job playing and doing all the little things right to help that room. We look for him to continue to do all these things. And I'll be the first one to high five him when he hits that 1,000-yard mark and say, let's go to the next one. And but we'll really be excited for him once he hits that 1,000-yard plateau, because that's something that means something in this league. It's just always a nice thing to have when the guys get that, because that's a good recognition not only to the player that they get 1,000 yards, but also the entire team that because it takes everybody to contribute to that.
Thanks for the time, Coach.
Thanks, everybody. I'll see you Wednesday.